Oh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 282 of Flow Wrestling Radio Live. I am your host, Christian Piles, joined as always by my mainest man, Willie Saylor. We got the full band back together here today. We are brought to you today by ASICS. Shout out to ASICS. Thank you to ASICS for your support of Flow Wrestling Radio Live. And today, a unique circumstance, unfortunate story. No matter which way you fall on the Bergen Catholic situation, it is an unfortunate story. And anytime you see allegations of sexual abuse in this sort of a situation, and it's something that has become all too common in sports and media, etc. You're seeing it a lot. Sexual abuse, people in power abusing it, etc. You see it and your stomach gets queasy. But then a closer look at this situation, and I think despite what the media headlines are right now, and that's something I want to get to, is that I think the reporting or lack thereof of this situation has been so surface level and vacant that it's a travesty when you consider the personal ramifications that these accusations have. It's full-fledged character assassination, and evidently no one in the media, no one in New Jersey has any interest in looking at this lawsuit and asking questions, because that's all I think we're going to do. And I think if you've read this lawsuit, it begs a number of questions. But the first thing that got me kind of pouring into this and thinking, wow, Dave Bell is maybe, and Willie can certainly help me out here, is maybe the most personally respected high school coach in America. When you talk to people about Dave Bell, now this is a guy that coaches Bergen Catholic. They were the number 1 or number 2 team in the country this year. That's a topic for another day. One of the best teams year in and year out the last couple years. No one talks about Dave Bell's chops in the wrestling room. No one says this guy is a mat wizard. They talk about how Dave Bell has changed their life, how he has been a mentor, how he has personally helped these kids. That's the first thing that comes up when you talk to other coaches about him. Coach Tirapelli, another highly respected coach, has come out in support of Coach Bell. But that's what his athletes say about him. So immediately you see an accusation like this against someone like that, the most widely respected guy maybe in high school wrestling. That makes you give it a side eye in the initial.
I don't even think we're talking about this if it's not Dave Bell, because it's one thing for a number 1 or number 2 team in the country. You know, let's say another head coach of a top program in the country had this allegation against him come out. We might be saying, whoa, this is weird, this is different, I hope this isn't true. It comes out about Dave Bell, and you're like, no. Yeah. And listen, there could be some things that, I mean, you never know anymore. Of
course.
Right? You never know anymore. Of course. But Dave Bell that dude is a godsend. I love him. People across the country love him. You have rival schools from California saying you love him.
Well, hey, I'd be careful with that love word.
Yeah,
that's mentioned in the lawsuit.
Yeah,
telling a kid he loved him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's be careful. We don't want to find our names on there.
Yeah.
But
so
go ahead.
But you ask college coaches, they think the world of him. I don't know anybody that's come across him that wouldn't advocate for Dave Bell and talk about how, in fact, I didn't like I think it's a little cheap and lazy, maybe effective though, how they position the lawsuit. First of all, you go like this. You go wrestling, Catholic, and then you throw the word sexual in there. Dude, you could be the most innocent human being in the world. That's gonna make the hair on their arm stand up.
Right.
And like you were saying, the reporting of it too, I just find it funny. One of the articles that was written, it was like, The opening of it. Coach Dave Bell of Powerhouse Bergen Catholic sexually abused wrestlers. If this allegation is true, why lead with that?
Yeah.
I mean, why lead with it in that way? I mean, it's just sensational. I don't know.
It's inaccurate. It's lazy. So the media reporting on this is probably, we could do a whole show on that and what they've done. But I think what's important here is let's just look at the facts of what is in the lawsuit. Because I think if you look closely at the lawsuit and you ask this one question throughout it as you're reading, is this the behavior of parents who have a child that was a victim of sexual abuse? Ask that question. Hold on. Ask that question throughout the facts as we lay them out, as they've laid them out throughout this lawsuit. Is this what you would do? Is this what a reasonable parent would do if your child was a victim of sexual abuse and sexual assault, as is levied here?
That's a great question. Can we get something out of the way though first, because the whole idea of victim shaming. I want to I don't want to accuse a kid. I don't want to berate a kid because I mean I don't. What are the rules to this anymore? Right? Like if somebody accuses somebody else and you are skeptical of it. We're just voicing our opinions. We're just looking at the facts and looking at what we know. We're not trying to poo-poo on any kid. We're not trying to victim shame.
No one is. I think if this were true, this stuff was all true, then the parents and the attorneys involved have done the kid a massive injustice with how they've handled it. Okay, the first instance of the sexual abuse goes all the way back to December at the Beast of the East, where it is alleged that a coach, not Coach Bell, showed a pornographic image on his phone to a group of wrestlers. Okay, now
Coach Spataro,
yes,
who is an awesome dude.
Okay, so that's an allegation. That is not good. In my opinion, that is the most serious, specific allegation in this lawsuit. The showing a pornographic image. If you look at these specific things that are mentioned, this is probably the most potentially disturbing one. Now, the great thing about it, if there is one, this can easily be proven.
Yeah, he either did or didn't.
Did or didn't. Give up the phone, you can easily tell. I mean, come on. The government, the law enforcement can figure this out in 2 seconds. And also the fact that he allegedly showed it to multiple wrestlers, certainly those wrestlers would come forward and corroborate the story if it were true. Now, to my knowledge, that has not happened. But, okay, that's one of the things. That's one of the allegations. That's in December. In January, or sometime later, it's they focus on Coach Bell. They say that Coach Bell called the plaintiff shredded, okay, which is like calling kid jacked or ripped or strong looking, okay. They also mention that he said he told him in texts and maybe emails, I love you, or that he loved him. So let's first just take those two things. But the end of this sentence is the most interesting part. He stated the plaintiff was shredded, parentheses, meaning extremely muscular and physically fit, and texted an email plaintiff that he loved him, comma, as well as other highly inappropriate and sexual predatory behavior on a minor child. Interesting. I'm not an attorney, but you would think I would lead with the highly inappropriate and sexual predatory behavior on a minor child. I would not lead with shredded. I would not lead with I love you. So you can't just throw in that kind of vagary and then say, okay, there's these two things and other way worse stuff. That's not how it works. The lawsuit should contain details. Okay, I've spoken. I'm not an attorney. I've spoken with multiple attorneys about this. What should we be looking for in here? Shouldn't this be included? They said absolutely. Those details should be outlined in here. And they're not in here. And instead, we're focusing on calling a kid shredded, which I guarantee. I coached for, like 6 years, high school. I guarantee you I called a kid jacked or shredded or ripped at some point. I know I've told multiple wrestlers I coached that I love them because I love them, right? And so what is happening here is the very act of mentorship and coaching is in jeopardy here with this. And
well, it's flimsy. It reads flimsy.
Oh,
I don't
yes.
read. I don't read legal documents on a regular basis, but I read this one from top to bottom, and I don't know. I don't know how like somebody in a judge or something doesn't look at it and go, what? What am I looking at? First of all, it's completely redundant and repetitive. It could have been summed up in about 3 paragraphs. They didn't protect my child, and
it was like they had, we were all in college, and you had like maybe a 2,000-word assignment, and I was pretty good at this. You could find ways just to extend the sentences, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't. But maybe that's just how. But legal
the most glaring, some of the most glaring things are that 2 things jump out at you right away. One, they say they have victims 2 to 100. Mm-hmm. They will be forthcoming. You have 100 other people that were corroborate this.
So I asked about this. So that actually, it sounds crazy, but that is actually something that happens. Like with the Bill Cosby case, you kind of file this broad lawsuit against someone, and it's kind of open for other people,
others to step forward.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is that's kind of normal practice.
So when I'm ignorant of, I'm naive when it comes to legal documents, that is not saying that there's 100 others. That is a placeholder to say if somebody else comes forward, we'll put them in there.
We got 9. We got room for 99 more.
Anybody want to sign up? We got 9. Our roster's 99 deep at least.
So now,
but you read that, and then you read. He said he was shredded because that's the first thing that hits, right? That's the first thing. That's the first like
detail
in the thing. So I'll tell you what, we're gonna sit down. We're gonna draft this legal document. What we're gonna lead with?
Shredded.
He called him shredded. He said, "I love you," and other aggressive, predatory suggestions.
What? Okay. All right. So, of note, the word.
How about you? How about if there are additional aggressive sexual towards, how about you lead with? How about you go with that? Because what's that?
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what you lead with. Sexual assault. The 2 words sexual assault is mentioned in this lawsuit 19 times. Okay, New Jersey law says that there must be contact. Okay, without getting so specific, sexual assault involves contact. Okay, physical touching. Right? That's what sexual assault refers to. However, at no point in this lawsuit is any physical touching described, mentioned. It's just they're just throwing the word in there.
That's what I was saying.
They're just putting the word sexual assault in there. Now, why would they do that? Why are they getting detailed over shredded and I love you? They don't mind getting detailed there. But they're not going to get detailed on what is the worst part of it, the sexual assault of the plaintiff. Now, what is even more interesting, Andrew T. Miltonberg, Esquire, the attorney listed here, goes to the media, on TV, cameras rolling, says that there was physical handling from the BC staff to the plaintiff. Physical handling. I guess you could say touching. You could say a lot of things, but I guess
if they wrestled.
Yeah. Perhaps they wrestled. So maybe he didn't lie. But their physical touching, why is that not mentioned here? Why is that not in the lawsuit? Well, I would lead with the physical handling. I would lead with the highly inappropriate and sexual predatory behavior on a minor child, but that's not in here. Okay? And what is interesting about that, and what you could maybe assert, or my thought is, I don't know this to be true, but an attorney can get in serious hot water. If they put physical touching and these details in the lawsuit itself, they're subject to a lot more potential punishment, whereas they can just kind of throw it out there, and they're just trying to win this public opinion sort of thing right now. So they can be more outspoken and broad and just don't get into stuff that is actually even in the lawsuit and just throw out these bombs. They're lobbing grenades, physical handling, but it's nowhere mentioned in here. Why would that be the case? Why? And here's the question that I want in your minds. Is this the behavior of parents who have a child that was a victim of sexual abuse? If you had a kid that was sexually abused, why would you leave him in the school? Why would you not go? What is your? You don't have to be a parent to put yourself in this hypothetical situation and know exactly how you would act. If a loved one was sexually abused, I am going to the cops. I'm going to the police. I want this dangerous person in jail.
And you sure as hell don't care about their wrestling future. Well,
Right.
I don't know. He's getting sexually abused, but let's see if he can win the whatever weight class spot.
Well, that's not mentioned in the lawsuit. But
What's not mentioned?
him vying for a spot.
No, okay. So
The point. Hold on.
you don't leave him on a wrestling team.
Right. You don't.
What is mentioned is his wrestling. He's trying to get into a college and be recruited.
Right. So if your child was sexually abused in December and you let him remain on the team all the way through January, and there are emails from parent to Bergen Catholic staff in late January asking about the details of a wrestle-off. Okay, and that's a totally separate thing, and we kind of are like talking around a wrestle-off a little bit here, and we're not getting into the specifics of who is involved here. Just know there's probably more to the story. There is more to the story,
Well,
but there's a legal implication there that we are trying to avoid because this is clearly a litigious and vindictive family.
Well, I mean, yeah, but we could say what the other story. We don't have to mention a weight. We don't have to mention a name. I mean, the backdrop of this is a kid couldn't make the lineup, and then got vindictive about it.
Potentially. So why would you, if your child was being sexually abused, leave them in the school on the team? Why would you wait until April to file a lawsuit? Why at no point did you go to the police? Why would you leave him in this situation? Why in January would you file a HIB complaint, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying? Okay, that is a complaint that is basically within the school, within a school, right? This is something you can kind of levy if there's harassment, intimidation, or bullying. It's simple. It doesn't really fall under the kind of sexual. It's like, I can't really think of a parallel, but it's like if you were, okay, maybe it's like this. If you were sexually assaulted or harassed at work or something really bad, and you went to HR. Let's say you were violated completely. You went to HR. You didn't go to the cops. It's kind of like that. Like, wait, if you're being abused, you go to the cops. You don't file this little thing that doesn't really necessarily encompass sexual assault. So why are you going there in the initial? There's nothing about sexual abuse. It's about bullying, right? Then in January, you're asking about a wrestle-off, okay? Then 2-3 months later, you still haven't gone to the cops, and you're filing a lawsuit. Are these the actions of parents whose son was sexually abused?
No, and I mean, I don't know how much you're worried about them suing us or what my journalistic responsibilities are, what I can say and can't say. But the father in question made a social media post praising the coaches right in the middle of all this thing, right? So, I mean, what are you talking about?
Okay. So the lawsuit is full of all these vague terminology. There's locker room allegations which are completely unprovable, that Coach Bell watched kids undress or get dressed in the locker room, which, I mean, isn't that what happens? Isn't that what the locker room for? You get changed in the locker room. Now, I mean, and how do you prove looking at or staring or what? It's totally unprovable, and it's probably in there for that reason, because you can't prove it, but you can very easily say it. So, in my opinion, the real tragedy here is the impact that this has on coaching, that this has on wrestling needs men who are leaders to coach and lead other men to create more leaders. And what this does, even if nothing else happens, if this is the end of it, this is dismissed and everything, Coach Bell's legacy in many ways is tarnished and ruined. I don't know if he'll be able to continue coaching. I don't know what this will be, if he'll even want to, because for the investment of time that a wrestling coach puts in relative to the compensation, and if you have to factor in that you're at risk, every single wrestling coach could have this exact stuff levied against them so easily. You could get into locker room stuff. You could probably get 1,000 coaches that have told kids they loved them. You could get 1,000 coaches that have said you're jacked, you're shredded, you're ripped. 1,000 coaches that have been in the locker room while kids were changing. Okay, you're basically making coaching illegal, and the pragmatic decision as smart men or women are thinking about getting into coaching. Why would I do this? Why would I work? Why would I help these parents when I can be? The nature of coaching is so litigious now that I could be subject of a lawsuit. My life could be ruined. I could be financially. And how could I possibly prove my innocence? How can Coach Bell prove he didn't look? How do you prove that?
I don't know if you have to. That's looking is not illegal. I mean, I don't think that if this goes through and it says, there's nothing here. They're exonerated. There's nothing here. I don't think Dave Bell takes a hit. I think it's an inconvenience. I think so many people. I don't think
this isn't an inconvenience.
I don't think people question. Do you think that people question Dave Bell? Because
in the wrestling community, probably not. But I mean, this is that. I got on Twitter, went to the news thing. Sometimes it's about a LeBron James dunk. The main thing in your news, it was about this. This is a national story.
Well, guess what? So, I mean, this is the world of tort and legal stuff we live in. You don't have to have much. You don't have to have anything to push a lawsuit.
So there's more to this. Continue to ask, be inquisitive. I encourage everyone to read the lawsuit and ask these questions, because I think there's a lot that can be poked. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the schools mentioned and all that. They almost sound in the lawsuit off-put that they said the son's no longer on the wrestling team. They're like upset.
Absolutely.
You're upset that the kid's not on the team?
I'll tell you what else was really weird to me was that they said that he was off the team and they were you can see that they were upset about that. And it was mentioned at least 2 or 3 times that he was trying to get scholarships to certain places. But it mentioned that wrestling regained his confidence because he was bullied when he was younger. And I thought that was really odd. It's like you're almost saying that he's like he maybe has a condition, like he was bullied before and now he's feeling it again. I don't know why they would put that in there.
Yeah, I don't know. This was interesting. This is not important, but I thought it was interesting. It maybe speaks to the level of detail or lack thereof that the lawyers put into this. It's important to note that the plaintiff is an outstanding wrestler who has achieved the highest levels in wrestling, which is debatable. He's not achieved the highest levels in wrestling, and is actively being recruited by numerous prestigious Ivy League colleges, including New York University, not an Ivy League college. So, details, guys, details. Those should be included. Now, that's what we have on the lawsuit. There's more we could get into. I would like to read a few testimonials from other people involved that had great things to say.
And I think these articles that came out and they positioned it in a way they shouldn't have, I think they regretted it, and then they ran a piece praising him.
Yeah, because they were so quick, shameful media, to just post this headline because scumbags were running around to the media trying to get them to run it, and they ran it first, asked questions later, way too late. They're still not asking questions. They're just kind of doing something that maybe a puff piece for. No one would. I would imagine. No one did this for Sandusky after he got He's like,
yeah.
Here's the athletes what they had to say. I doubt this piece.
No.
So I think you're probably right. Here's one from Adam Tirapelli, coach at Clovis, another highly respected coach. Coach Bell is my homeboy because he respects the sport, isn't afraid to compete, treats others well, loves his wrestlers, and isn't in coaching for accolades, rankings, or personal glory. He's as genuine as they come. This is what should be trending. Feel free to share your own, which others did. Jordan Pagano, wrestler at Rutgers, to Coach Bell, I absolutely love you and everything you've done for me. He said, I love you. Everything you've done for me. I'm not only a better wrestler, but a better man for having you in my life. There's a special place in hell for the people who fabricated this story. Don't sweat it, though. Bergen Catholic has your back, coach. Outside, that was Jordan Pagano. Larry Otsuka. Outside of my father, Coach Bell is the biggest male influence of my life. My confidence just grew. It let me strive for things I never imagined. Ben Duranio. Coach Bell is one of the main reasons we've had success in our careers because of how he treated us in our wrestling career. Joe Grello, another Rutgers wrestler, world team member, etc. He's, David Bell, like a second dad to me. Robert Howard, current Bergen Catholic wrestler, one of the top lightweights in the country. Coach Bell has a flawless reputation as someone who exhibits class and character as a coach and a human being. You'd be a fool to even consider the possibility that this is even an ounce true. This is a kid that's in the room every day in this same alleged predatory environment. That's what he says.
And right, and then here comes Josh McKenzie. There's several current team members
that have said. Tyler Casamenti, breaking. Most inaccurate accusations I've ever heard. Coach Bell and the rest of the coaches are some of the best people I've had the privilege of knowing and still look up to. Can't believe some salty parents are trying to ruin the program and coach's reputation. Here's one from a parent named Harry Asatrian. A parent shared this video, which speaks volumes about the Bergen boys' love and support of each other. Credit to BC and its coaching staff of shaping our boys to become men with class. Deus Volt. More to come. This isn't over, obviously. We're hopeful for the truth.
All right, so two things, if you're done.
Yeah.
One, I don't know the law, but is there if this turns out to be fabricated and baseless, and is there any recompense? I mean,
countersuit. If a countersuit hasn't been filed, it's going to be filed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good. And I don't much care about that, but there should be something. You cannot run around doing this, or you shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
Allowed to make. And the second thing is, I spoke with somebody that's a lawyer, and he was concerned while he thinks that it could be a lot of BS, he's just hoping that the chain of event, it was reported correctly so they don't get hung up in like, well, you were supposed to, right, or this, this legal mumbo jumbo and how it's reported. And
exactly. So what basically there's Title IX in high school as well, and there's a chain of events that should happen when sexual abuse is reported, that there's a chain of command. Like if it was told to coach, the coach goes to administration goes to this. Without getting into there is that. Now, my understanding is it 100% was handled properly. Now, they didn't, but of note, there was no allegation of sexual abuse until this lawsuit. There was no contacting of the police at any point. It's still, to this day, criminal charges. A kid sexually abused was sexually abused. You didn't go to the cops. What does that suggest, parents?
It suggests that
What kind of a parent are you if you don't want?
It suggests they put it in there as a trigger word, right? Like, I mean, you know what would be good if we said sexual abuse.
And boy, did the media latch onto it and run with it. And they put it in there so many times. How could you not? Right? Just the word combo sexual assault is 19. The word sexual, who knows how many times it's in there? I can do a.
And there are examples.
72 times the word sexual is in there.
And there are examples. There are hard-hitting evidence for sexual is, man, you're ripped, and I love you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm Steams. It's tough to transition from this. There is no segue that makes sense. And this is where my mind has been since I read this. So if I get struck with another point or something I didn't get out, I'm going to probably divert from U.S. Open or fan questions back to this. But here we go to other things. Tim Flynn to West Virginia. This has multiple. This was close to home.
Well,
because
Kyle Brackey.
Kyle Brackey is.
I was already spending his salary on something else.
I know. We're gonna have to restructure.
Yeah.
We thought he was gone. So let's cut to Kyle. Let's get his reactions. His dream job. Kyle, listen. I know you guys think this was a gag. This is serious. Kyle applied for this job.
Yeah. I got my rejection letter yesterday.
Oh my
or
gosh.
email, I should say, after the Tim Flynn news. So not great handling there by West Virginia.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you had to find out through the media.
Through the media.
That you did not get the job.
How'd you first found out you saw Tim Flynn's billboard in Morgantown?
Yeah. And Zeb decided to kick me while I was down last
What
night.
did he say?
He tweeted out the picture of the new billboard of Tim Flynn in Morgantown and said this could have been you.
Wow. Man, you know, I want to lift you up while you're down.
It's been a rough 48 hours.
I'm
but
sure.
I'm keeping my head up. I'm trying to move on.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He's a good coach. He'll do a good job. I just felt like that was my job.
Did you get any texts or calls from Coach Greenlee?
No, I haven't heard from him. Haven't heard from him yet.
Sometimes when someone's been through something hard, you just want to give them their space. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's what.
Well, there's a grieving process.
Yeah.
How many steps are there? Maybe 5 or like finally the last one's acceptance.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Will you?
You're not in denial anymore, are you?
No, I'm not in denial. You know what was a real big slap in the face?
No.
Is after the news broke, I had to social it.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
That's
This is
tough.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah.
If you need some paid time off,
Unlimited?
we have unlimited in Flow Sports.
Perpetual
Allegedly.
time off.
So
does
some
make me
people
feel
that work
better.
here think.
Well, now hold on. Did Coach Flynn contact you about an associate job?
I have not been in contact with Coach Flynn yet.
Because, maybe coach and waiting situation.
That would be awesome. Yes.
I would not turn that down. I will accept all calls from Coach Flynn.
Okay.
Will you? Is there any bitterness there? Will you help him if he has? He asks you for pointers.
There's no bitterness.
Maybe he asks you about certain recruits.
I will absolutely help him. Love my home state and West
Wow.
Virginia still. So I will help him.
I got to say, Kyle, you're handling this with nothing but class.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And,
Would you recommend your father as a general counsel for the wrestling team?
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting.
Mhm.
Well,
So where does that? Well,
why don't we talk about now that we've gotten that out of the way, we've been friends first. I say friend first.
Mhm.
Okay. But let's talk about the news. Tim Flynn is one of the best coaches in the country.
Mhm.
He won Coach of the Year a couple years back. He had Edinburgh in the top. They won a trophy. Okay. It's amazing. Now he's going to West Virginia.
They have 3 in the finals.
No.
They had 2 in the finals.
Port-
and Shop was 3rd.
Port, Habit, and Shop was third.
And Vic Avery.
And Avery
I
was
thought Vic
like
Avery-
third.
Yeah.
he placed.
He was third.
Vic Avery got third. Crap.
Of all people.
That wasn't I mean,
You know
that's
who-
an incredible team.
Yeah.
You know who of all people's birthday it was yesterday? Chip Ness.
Congrats, Chip.
That was a Tony Ramos joke.
Big Chip Ness fan. All right, don't divert me, Willie. Let's talk about the move. Tim
right.
Flynn is the head coach. This has to be a good thing for West Virginia, right?
Sure. I mean,
This is a
Tim
great
Flynn
hire.
has been nothing but a pillar of consistency, right? I mean, very structured. I mean, of course, you know, it's not every year you're going to have 4 in the top 4. You're not Edinburgh's not going to take top 5 as a team every year, but you know you're going to get a good product year in, year out, right? And that's something that West Virginia hasn't had in a long time. His reputation precedes him. He's gonna get a lot of looks from top kids. He's probably gonna round out a really nice staff, and he's gonna, you know, let's be honest, he's gonna have more resources than he ever had at Edinburgh.
What I like about this hire, a couple things. One, Coach Flynn has a track record of recruiting Pennsylvania. Not only, I think he's got a great eye for talent. He finds guys. You'll see a kind of a tough kid, and he'll kind of emerge to me and be like, oh, he's going to Edinburgh. Like they already had him like before his kind of break. So I think he's got a good eye for that, right? That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's going to open him up to a couple more blue chips as well, too.
It is. So he's gonna get more blue chippers in there. He's also gonna continue to do what he does. Identify that talent at a younger age. You know, when people started drooling on Dakota Gear, he was already wrapped up.
Too late.
I mean, and it's not just that he identifies talent early. It's not just that he recruits Pennsylvania. He had Vic Avery, Vermont. He has Sean Russell, Georgia. He has
Sean Russell, although honestly,
Lugo, Florida.
Sean Russell probably one of the more credentialed recruits he's landed.
Yeah.
That was one guy that was like, dude, this was a top 1 or 2 guy in his career. There are not many of those that found their way.
Yeah, so he's done a good job, and I think recruiting, certainly, coaching, certainly, and more resources now.
Yeah, I think it's right. One thing, you know, Coach Flynn is not 30 years old, okay? He's an older, but this is a guy with great energy and passion for the sports. I think he is a long-term solution at West Virginia. I mean, Nick Saban, how old's that guy? I mean, he doesn't look that old, but he's like older. There's coaches that are having great success at his age. Kyle's going to come at me with the
66.
Coach Saban, 66. Tim Flynn's like his mid. I know that's football, but it's a very intense job. Coach Flynn also, if I may, I hope I don't get sued, but that dude is shredded. That man is in very good physical shape. Did you see that headlock video? This dude is jacked.
Hey, so, right.
Please don't sue me,
But I don't
Coach.
know if – listen, you can surround the team with younger assistants, right? You can.
That's what I'm really curious is who is he gonna bring on staff?
Well, I think the whole staff's going with him.
Yeah, whole staff's going with him.
That's my understanding. Yeah, everyone.
So
it's like we're packing up, leaving.
And Bracky.
And Bracky.
If they'll have me.
So
Bracky's gonna run the RTC.
All right, so we can talk about West Virginia, but I mean, the other story is Edinburgh, and the problem is there. Listen, Edinburgh to West Virginia is a step up in resources, step up in prestige, right? But there's a backstory there too that the Pennsylvania state school system might shutter doors, right? So, I mean, this isn't breaking news. They came out with a story last year that says PSEC schools might have to be consolidated, and maybe they shut down this one and keep this one open. I don't know. Clarion just unveiled plans. They already broke ground. I talked to Keith Ferraro about last week, but they're building a whole new gymnasium, so that's like a $2 million project. So I wouldn't think Clarion's shutting down. I don't have any idea if Edinburgh's shutting down. I don't want to put that out to scare people, but there is that thing floating around there, and there is numerous articles about problems in with the PSEC schools.
Okay.
One more thing before we kind of put a bow on this maybe. I have this question. I don't necessarily have this concern, but I always have this question whenever in any sport when a coach like Tim Flynn, who goes to a bigger school with more resources. It happens most often in basketball. So, again, I'm not saying Tim Flynn can't get the job done at WVU. But sometimes guys can do really well at small schools, and they're the guy that can take a program in the 50s or the 100s to the top 10 and have All-Americans, or have conference titles or whatever, and then they get to a big institution and pressure, expectations, or whatever happens, and they actually end up doing worse.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw this in wrestling with Mark Cody.
That's
the most
only one that I can think of.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, anyway.
Because I don't think it happens as often in wrestling either. I think there's a cycle of like staying
Tom
in a
Ryan
small
went from
school.
Hofstra to Ohio State, did just fine.
Yeah, and
Pat Pop.
Yeah.
Binghamton to NC State. I say there's a better track record of the contrary to this. Yes, it happens. It happened at Oklahoma 100% with Coach Cody. He was better. The wrestling teams at American would beat the wrestling teams he had at Oklahoma at any point.
Unbelievable.
Which is crazy. Now, here's my thing. If Coach Flynn simply gets West Virginia to the Edinburgh level, he has drastically improved the health and the success of West Virginia wrestling. This takes time, okay? Virginia Tech took time for Dresser. All right, so this is 6 years before you maybe see the fruits of this.
Yeah, I think the next couple of years it's going to look like what it did at Iowa State this past year. A lot of kids leaving, a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
But people kind of freak out about that. They're like, what's going on? He can't be doing that good of a job. That's what happens.
What should happen.
Tommy Gant was the only guy remaining 4 years later?
Yes.
That team was
And look where NC State is now. It happens. You just have to give it time. It's a whole new culture. It's a whole philosophy. It just takes some time.
Yeah, the Tommy Gant example is perfect. Exactly right.
But we are seeing younger kids. I don't know if there's data on this, but it seems like younger kids are better sooner, right? I mean, Yanni walks in, wins a title. Spencer walks in, wins a title. Maybe David Carr does really well after a year. Maybe West Virginia gets a blue chipper or two that right away surpasses anything West Virginia's done in a while.
Right.
Well, and the question there is Braxton Amos. Because for me, regardless of what state you're in, again, any sport, like, win your state. And to have a kid who is probably credential-wise going to be the best recruit since Raider.
Yeah, in West Virginia, absolutely.
To come out of West Virginia, and, Braxton's got a lot of options. He's a really smart kid that could go, Ivy route or military route because he's got all those options. But to try to keep Braxton Amos in state would be one of the highest priorities for me if I'm Tim Flynn.
Sure, I think so, but I actually
not the only one, but it's important.
I don't agree with that because that is you might not fit what Braxton wants.
Well, yeah, that's why I had all those caveats though.
Yeah, I know you did, but it's like you can't even put that. You go after him, you give him the pitch, you try to keep him as best you can. But if he goes to an Ivy or he goes to an academy,
it's not
or Ohio State, that's not a reflection of anything. He went to Ohio. If he goes to Ohio State, why wouldn't he? Has aspirations as an upper weight. So you go with Tervel and Kyle. Yeah. There's nothing you can you just can't put that much stock in it. All you can do is give it an effort. It's not a success or failure if they don't get Braxton Amos. He is not going to turn around the program. It's going to be a volume of quality wrestlers, and if they get him, that is awesome, but I just don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, I don't think it makes it.
I get why you think it's important. It's just not as important to me to land Braxton.
Especially in a state that doesn't really produce a lot of D1 guys, right? Yeah. It's not like Braxton left, so the other West Virginia talent's going to leave. It's not like...
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not like that. They can still recruit heavily in the Pittsburgh area, which is right in their backyard. Mm-hmm. And in Ohio area, they get, a Graham kid. Ohio's loaded with talent, right?
To me, just build the wall around Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. I'm building the wall, and no one's getting out.
Well, I would work over, like, Indiana and maybe the Chicago area.
Okay, so
just put that in there.
Okay.
So as long as
I would expand to California, too.
And as far south as Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Have they looked into Dagestan?
Eastern Seaboard and Dagestan, I think.
Yeah. So just that small security perimeter. If you keep all those wrestlers in there, you're
They
gonna have a
should be
top 10
alright.
finish. Top 10 finish.
Yeah.
I'll put my name on it. Top 10 if they can lock down PA, Ohio, California, Dagestan, and Florida.
Khabib still has
Khabib's got 4 years.
4 years.
People forget that. So great hire there. Hope for the best for Edinburgh, that they get a quality coach. There's a decent there's a decent coaching tree there. I would think someone would be interested in that.
So Cliff Moore, huh? I did not know that the staff was going or rumored to be going. So what does that do for Edinburgh? We don't know. They're open yet, right? That they're open.
Cleveland
Arkansas.
State.
Arkansas. What? No, man?
Cleveland State.
Cleveland State. Right. So
3 openings. It's interesting. One of them's a unique one with Arkansas Little Rock, but 2 other openings. Now, someone asked the question. Oh yeah, I know who asked the question. Robert Sasso, the father of one Sammy Sasso. Better hire, Bono at Wisconsin or Flynn at West Virginia? Both home runs. I don't know. I don't want to sit on the fence, but I truly don't have a preference in the hire. I think Bono was a slam dunk. I thought he seemed like on paper what he had done at South Dakota State as a head coach, the obvious choice, right? Same for, Flynn. You talk about, Coach Colat's name got thrown out there. Coleman Scott's name got thrown out there. No name for the West Virginia job had the coaching credentials and chops of Tim Flynn, period. I didn't hear a name that measured up to Coach Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Flynn was the highest bar, and I didn't hear another name involved that was higher.
And I think both were perfect fits for the program they went to.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, do I have this right? Did Tim Flynn put his name in for Pitt and then kind of withdraw it?
Yeah. So
what does that tell you? Tim Flynn,
he was looking.
he was looking, but he was going to make sure the situation's right. He obviously loves and believes in the future at West Virginia.
Yeah.
He wasn't just going because it's a
The Pitt hiring situation is a 9-part FRL of its own, and it was a travesty how they handled that, and it was a travesty for Coach Gavin how it played out, even though he was ultimately the guy tabbed. But yeah, Flynn was like all but there. To my knowledge, he had told the Edinburgh team he was going to Pitt last year, and then shenanigans with Pitt.
The AD wouldn't commit to the new wrestling facility, right?
Yeah, they said it, but they would not put it in writing.
So
Unreal.
Okay, we got the Dream Team Classic coming up. The marquee match there is Brayton Lee and Ja'Cory Teamer. Also, I'm really interested to see Mason Paris against Brandon Whitman. Also, the final rankings came out, and I would just like to pick your brain, Christian. And not pick your brain, but
Pick it.
get your assessment. I mean, me and Nomad talk about it ad nauseum with the prospect ranking show and the big boards and such. But Kyle and Christian, who are you most looking forward to coming out? I mean, take your pick, right? But the pound for pound was Gable, Whitlake, Teamer, Carr, Brayton Lee, Joey Silva, Sammy Sasso, Mason Paris, Colton Schultz, the only underclassman in the 14-man
Oh
pound.
my goodness.
Pound. Gavin Hoffman, Michael Beard, Seth Nevels, Aaron Brooks, Brock Hardy.
It's interesting. In this era of young guys standing out, one junior made the pound
One
for
junior.
13 seniors. That's interesting. I think when you begin the pound for pound discussion, you immediately just take out Gable from the discussion. He is a different being altogether, a different prospect. He's just like his own separate thing, right? So it's almost like Zane at 149. It's like, okay, let's talk about the rest, right? All right, let's talk about the rest. Whitlake 2, Teamer 3, Carr 4. The guys I'm most excited about, I think David Carr has the ability to be maybe the number 2 guy coming out of this class
Now,
at the number 4.
Remember, too, there, Ja'Cory Teamer, I got a lot of questions. When the final rankings came out, I think the word final made people go nuts. But a lot of questions were, why is Teamer ranked ahead of Carr in the pound for pound, but behind him in the weight class ranking? Teamer went up to 52 late. He never did damage at 52 because he didn't hit national competition. It was all state competition. So take your pick there.
Yeah. So, okay, I think it's a couple of things. One, I think you could say safely that Teamer has probably beaten better guys. I mean, he's beaten, and that's what will go into a pound-for-pound ranking. He's beaten Sammy Sasso multiple times. So
He's also taken less losses.
Fewer losses. Carr had 2 years ago, Carr had some weird L's. He has not had those since, though, right?
No, he lost to Julian. He lost to someone else. I'm forgetting, but he lost to Joe Lee.
How recently, though? Like last year's Open?
Yes.
Okay.
Pound for pound in high school, which is different than college, is often a function of partially last loss. If you haven't lost in 3 years, and Willie obviously looks at big wins and stuff like that, but you haven't lost in 2-3 years, it makes you really hard to drop below a certain point.
Well, to be fair, what national folk style tournaments does Teamer go to? Because Carr hits Ironman and tougher tournaments.
That's another tough one too, because some of these guys wrestle everywhere. Like Carr and Sasso wrestle everywhere, so they're going to take losses. Well,
Teamer went to Super 32 and HSCA Flow Nationals last year.
Yeah. No, definitely out of season.
I didn't mean to get in a discussion on pound for pound philosophy or process. What I'm asking you is, who do you guys like more as a prospect, Carr or Teamer?
I like Carr. I like leg attacks.
Yeah, I like Carr a lot, although I think Teamer can be really good on the college level because he's so good at scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
But he can be pretty reliant on that. You're not going to out-scramble everybody.
Yeah.
We actually have a lot in the pound for pound. There's a lot in that wheelhouse. I guess Sasso's probably a 41, 49, probably 49. But you also have, coming in right behind them, you go Teamer, Carr, Brayton Lee.
Yeah, I like Brayton a lot. Strong, great athlete, a lot of good leg attacks. That's what I like. I like seeing guys that can get to legs at a consistent level. You see that, I think, the most with Carr, and that's why I like him the most. I agree with Bracky that Teamer's a great prospect, but, man, if your game is going to be
counters,
Ben Askren-esque scrambling, you better be Ben Askren-esque or you're gonna get beaten a lot. And guys are going to, at the collegiate level, I would imagine. Now he could just be transcendent here, but I don't believe that he is, at least yet. Guys will be able to get to his legs and finish, in my opinion, at least right now. So I could see he's going to need to evolve in some way, and he's always going to have this, and he's going to he's going to spladle kids in college, I bet. But you've got to be more than that.
It's always concerning to me, any kid in high school, that can you generate your own offense? Because at some point in college, you're going to be down. You're going to be losing a match, and it's going to be at conference, CKLV. It's going to be Midlands, Scuffle, big tournament, and you're going to need to generate your own offense.
I think another guy that could shoot up here in terms of, from where he's ranked now, Aaron Brooks.
Well, yeah.
Watching him, Cadet Worlds.
Yeah, we had a debate yesterday on who's number one on the show on the top 84-pound prospect, and I don't know. We didn't really come to a conclusion, but me and Nomad put Brooks ahead of Whitlake. Whitlake beat him twice and beat him rather convincingly. So pick your
one was close.
Pick your poison there.
They've definitely had a close match.
The first one was close. The second one was not.
Second one was a tech.
Correct.
10-0. So pick your poison there. I love Travis Whitlake. He generates his own offense too.
Same. I don't know who I prefer there. I mean, I can definitely subscribe to Brooks over. Now, here's one thing you need to remember. I remember one of our first major FRL arguments with Willie was his prospect ranking in, was 2015, Larry Early versus Joe Smith. Larry Early was 3-0 against Joseph. I said, okay, why is your process? I mean, I get it. You think he's better, but based on what? Do you think he's better? I think he's better. I think he's going to be better in college.
I know.
Well, Joe Smith was better in college. He was right. He had Joe ahead of him. I mean, I was wrong. I caped up for Larry as a prospect. At this point in their careers, it's been Joseph.
I mean, to be honest, this is kind of similar. Brooks and Whitlake. Like, there's no data for me to say that Brooks is going to be better than Whitlake.
It's totally that's what prospect ranking is.
I just see skill set. I don't know. And
if Josh Rosen beat Josh Allen in a football game, you don't. That's not what you base it on. I mean,
yeah,
it's different in wrestling. Just throw that out. Forget that. Forget my Mel Kiper moment.
You have a good crop of upper weights, which is good. I mean,
I love it.
I mean, heavyweight's been really cyclical. I mean, there was a good crop about 5 years ago, or longer than that, probably 8 years ago, and then it tailed off, and now we have guys like Gable Stevenson and Mason Paris and Colton Schultz, the only underclassman, and Seth Nevels. I mean, Seth Nevels gets overlooked, largely because there's other great upper weights.
What's going to be the fun debate for 2019 is Kirkfleet and Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Why was Kirkfleet not on here? I get it's tough to break. Just doesn't have that win.
It's real. Kirkfleet's really tough, and it doesn't really sit well with me. But the bottom line is, it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But from a rankings process, and it's not a prospect process, but from a rankings process at the weight and in the pound for pound, Braxton Amos has the last head-to-head.
Got it.
And last year, like 2016-17, Kirkfleet took some losses. The field that he beat in Akron to win,
sure,
you couldn't say. But yeah, prospect-wise, Kirkfleet is everything you want.
It's really tough with when you win worlds. Like, how do you weigh that? Because
yes,
there's a lot of. This is a good thing, but we've got quite a few world champions. You know, Jared Verkleeren was a world champion. Kirkfleet's a world champion. It's like you don't even know what they did. How do you quantify that? How do you throw that in?
I think Joe Grello might have been in the 5th place match at Worlds, right? Jabari Moody, I think, was bronze.
No, yeah, he was 5th.
It's who was it? Nathan Butler was
bronze.
So I'm not poo-pooing them guys. I'm just saying you don't know what the competition level is like.
Yeah, weight to weight, it's different. Dayton was in some, Dayton just now got a, junior world title. He never won cadets, so it's tougher. Yeah, so that's pound for pound. I think you have to. This is a process ranking. It's not eyeball.
We say it I have been saying it every year. So in a week or two, I will pull all the seniors out, and what we will have is the underclassmen, right? And the incoming 8th graders, of which there's a significant amount of really talented, proven 8th graders. But what you have left, you're always very underwhelmed, right? You take out the Gable Stevensons, and what you're left with, you're like, man, this stinks. And then 2 months later, after Fargo and stuff, you're like, this isn't so bad. They're pretty good. That being said, this year, when you take these guys out, what stars are left? It doesn't look like a great recruiting class for 2019.
So Schultz is going to be your number 1 overall pound for pound in like a couple months.
Almost unquestionably.
Huh?
Almost unquestionably.
How would he not be?
I mean, I like Colton Schultz a lot. He's going to be top 2 or 3. I mean, Kirkfleet's very good.
Well, wait. What could happen between now and when these seniors are moved that would have one of these guys pass Colton Schultz? If he's only...
my number 1 pound for pound?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
I thought you said prospect.
Willie, I'm with you there. The class of 2019, I feel... Kirkfleet, Schultz, McHenry, I'm very high on, but it is going to be a lot of guys who are starters or guys who, if they... there's going to be All-Americans, right, just because of, the nature of the cyclicality of college wrestling. But there's going to be guys who, when they become All-Americans, they're going to be Bryce Meredith types, right, where it's like, we didn't have a lot of data to confirm in high school that you could be this good. You created yourself this good. You got in a good program. You got in a good system and believed in yourself and was able to turn around. But right now, the class of 2019 does not look like it's going to be spectacular on paper.
Let's talk about that next week.
Okay.
I'd like to get into it. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the class of 2019. Let's get into a couple questions before we depart. There's not as many because I said in my tweet it's going to be Bergen heavy, and we took a half hour there. We got to Robert Sasso's question about Flynn or Bono. Let's get to Sammy Sasso's question.
On the family.
57-kilogram U.S. Open. No Spencer Lee at the Open. We'll see him at the trials. Dayton fix? Think we'll see. Think we'll see Tony Ramos. Probably Nathan Tomasello.
Do you agree that do you agree with? I tweeted last night. They should split up junior trials. We're having too many Gable Stevensons, Dayton fixes, Spencer Lees. I mean,
there was a time a couple of years ago where it's like, okay, it makes sense to have juniors and seniors at the same time. Let's have it all together. It makes sense financially. It makes sense for a lot of different reasons to do that. But anymore, if this is the way we're going,
Yanni's still a junior, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yanni's second-year junior now. You've got all these guys that could potentially make these splashes at the senior level. Maybe it's time we don't make them choose, where we want them to compete for a senior. Because what if Dayton Fix is the guy? What if Spencer Lee is the guy? We want them to go over that. But we also, if they're not the guy, if they're second or third or whatever, we want them on our junior world team because those are amazing tournaments, amazing experiences, and they should be able to win those tournaments. Now, you could do this.
You can do it, but
you could do that. You can say, all right, you get a special wrestle-off later. But the way the process is currently written for Spencer Lee, because he's not a returning world champ because of his injury last year, he cannot, at least to my knowledge, he cannot get this like special wrestle-off. He's kind of all like seniors or nothing potentially. Now, they could. I don't know if there was anything about that when they gave Joey McKenna his special wrestle-off or not. Perhaps there was. But I don't recall. So for that reason, I think they do need to.
Was.
Yeah, I believe there was too. They should do have it separate or make it so that these special circumstances, these Daytons and Gables can do both.
It just kind of gets buried too. There's so much stuff going on.
Yes.
Well, that's
and
another thing,
I remember last year, like 10 minutes before the final started, they're like, "All right, we're gonna start them in 10 minutes on the big stage." You're like, "What?" Like, holy cow, like Dayton and Gable and Mark Hall versus Alex Marinelli and like all these awesome matches are happening, and it's like we just finished a round, like quarterfinal round of the US Open, then boom, right into this.
Yeah.
That's another good point too. Is that one, for procedural reasons, split up juniors and seniors. Another is it's a great event. Have as many great events as you can, right? So don't get buried because, Chance Marsteller's wrestling Alex Derringer over here, and we're forgetting about David Carr and Joe Lee, which, if it was on another date and time, that's a marquee matchup.
For sure. We didn't answer Sammy's question about 57 at the Open. I'll take give me Dayton.
Yeah, I'm not picking against Tony again.
Oh, geez.
Last year.
You got the wag.
yeah.
Oh, snap.
Last year, I remember picking against him, and then like 5 minutes before, he was bopping around, and I was walking down that stairs, and he like looked in my eyes, and I was like, "Son of a, why did I do that?"
I forgot about Tony at the Open.
Oh yeah. Maybe I'm gonna refrain.
I don't know.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't want to get that finger wag. I think I picked him last year. I think I remained on his good side. It was Nomad enraged several wrestlers. Jordan Oliver
Made for a tremendous U.S. Open.
Who was it last year? Tony and who?
Tony and Nishan was the final.
Yeah, and he sat in that cradle and waited for the shot clock to break, and then took him down. It was really smart.
I thought he was on a single.
Or yeah, single.
Yeah,
You're
that
right.
was
Wasn't cradle.
smart. Did you guys catch? Sorry, I'm going back. Did you guys catch Jordan on the shot clock? Jordan's opponent was on the shot clock, and Jordan pushed him out with 1 second left on the shot clock, where if he would have waited one more second, then we got two. In fact, John Smith said that should be 2-0 because he thought they expired.
It hadn't quite expired. Okay.
I thought John did good on the call.
He's the GOAT at multiple things, including wrestling calls. Would adding DeSanto to the Iowa lineup make for a truly competitive team race with NCAAs with PSU? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think we're talking about 12 points with DeSanto, they got to make up 30 or 40.
Here's the thing.
Was Sorensen 5th? 4th?
Yeah. Here's the thing with Iowa, and I know that we're taking guys out, so like Stoll's going to be way higher, but Lugo has not All-American. DeSanto, not All-American. Now, only 1 try for DeSanto, only 2 for Lugo, but those guys have not All-American, so you're asking them to do something they haven't done. Doesn't mean they can't do it.
Well, it's not even that. It's just I'm personally taking Lugo and DeSanto's high-end point-scoring potential.
For sure.
I'm applying that. I'm assuming that. And they're still coming short. Lugo could be in the finals. DeSanto could get 3rd. I still don't think that's enough to beat Penn State.
I mean, you start with 4 finalists and work from there. Penn State has 4 finalists.
And they're going to be good at every other weight.
And 3 other returning All-Americans.
3 other returning. It's just it's not insurmountable because nothing's insurmountable. But it's not just a DeSanto. It's not just a Lugo. It's those guys at their highest potential. They're short. If you guys talk Dake for Olympic, is there anyone that could prevent Cox for Snyder final at Olympic team trials? No. I don't see what gets in the way of that unless, at this point right now, I don't know how you could say who could be. Now, is there a young guy that we're not considering that is a couple years away from challenging Jaden Cox?
I don't think so.
I don't see that guy because Gable's not coming down. Kirkfleet won't be there at 2020. So, no, I don't
who's the top juniors? Warner.
Here's my Olympic trials finals in 2020.
Oh, let's do this right now. Let's go.
Dayton Fix versus Spencer Lee at 57. 65, Zane Rutherford versus Yanni Giacomahalis. 74, Jordan Burroughs versus
Alex Derringer.
86, David Taylor versus Bo Nickel.
No Kyle Dake. Where you got Dake?
Kyle Dake versus David Taylor. 97, Jaden Cox versus Kyle Snyder. 125 kilograms.
Gable
Stevenson versus Nick Wisdowski. There's the Olympic trials finals.
So who's the Dan Dennis going to be?
Oh, yeah. These are getting blown up for sure.
Completely.
Oh, yeah.
They're not even like bad. And you included young guys. Like you even like thought ahead. Like
Yanni.
It's just Olympic trials.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. It's going to happen.
One of those guys will have debilitating injuries that will end their career. They'll never be the same. I mean, stuff's
When's Worlds this year?
Also, Mark Hall's name wasn't mentioned. Zahid Valencia's name was.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
I'd like to see Ed Ruth wrestle Kyle Dake.
Yeah,
Well,
that would be tremendous.
We could have in 2015, but Dake beat Taylor. Taylor beat Ruth.
Taylor beat Ruth.
Taylor beat Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dake beat Taylor, right. Like I said. If Zane, this should be our last question because it's 9:09. If Zane had redshirted the 16-17 season instead of the 14-15, what's the likelihood Penn State would be NCAA champs the last 8 seasons?
Ohio State won with 102 that year?
Yeah, but the question is, they would have won the 16-17 season for sure without Zane's points. Yeah, this was the source. This question was kind of the source of you got a plan gate, right? My plan was for Penn State to win every single year and not take a year off. So that was my thought. If you wrestle Zane now, you could win NCAAs ultimately. So yeah, you could say that they would have won, but would Zane have become Zane without that redshirt year? What happened that year? Because he went from a really good guy who beat Logan Stieber to a transcendent bonus point scorer in that year.
That was Hudashelt Habit?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also the butterfly effect of, okay, how does Ohio State and Oklahoma State and Iowa and Missouri, and Cornell, how do they change their recruiting, and how do they change how they juggle their red shirts and gray shirts and their lineups to?
Well, I don't think anyone was juggling lineups based on Zane's redshirting or not redshirting, right? Like,
but I'm saying if Zane graduates a year earlier, that then changes the pool of 149s.
Potential. Yeah,
Ohio State would have won this year. Theoretically, if you kind of go chalk, they would have won this year because they won by 8 and Zane scored 24, 25,
right.
whatever.
Yeah, so what is the likelihood is a question. I'd say there's a 50% chance they would have won 8 straight. Put it around that. So it's definitely a possibility, but how can you question the track record or the path that Zane took and not say they made the right decision? I mean, how do you, the guy won 3 NCAA titles, was the most dominant guy for 3 straight years. But yeah, you're right. It's possible. 9-12. If there's nothing else, I think we depart.
12 over, like.
Don't. Like
12
who?
over.
Who's 12 over?
Ryan Anderson at Super 32.
He still won it. He still won it. That is an interesting prospect there.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Anderson.
The most ridiculous I ever heard was everybody remembers Mac Lunas, right? Cornell.
Yes.
Rudy Rada was a kid for DeMatha who they were going to meet him at Mount Madness, which is a big tournament in Maryland. And teammate of mine's brother was waiting in front of him. He was drinking a Gator. He's like, wow, this kid must be way under. He was like 14 over. He completely just blew weight to not have to wrestle Mac.
All right. You could be 0.1 over, but I guess he overkill. There's no way I'm wrestling Mac Lunas. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to the Bergen Catholic situation. Be curious. Ask questions. We have many. Thanks for listening. We're going to be back next Tuesday. And, yeah, thanks, ASICS. See you next time.